I'd like you to take us back to the year 2014. The entire world is embroiled in conflict. It's worse than even now with the polarization. It's seemingly everyone had chosen a side. The divisiveness is unprecedented. Everyone is absolutely certain that they were right, and if you disagreed with them, they literally thought you were delusional. It was scary, and it all centered around a blue and black dress, or maybe it was a gold and white dress. I love the way you depicted this dress debate in your book, and I thought we'd start there because it's a perfect illustration that there is, in fact, an objective reality, but our brains don't see it. So can you start off by giving us an overview of why that is and how you came interested in this and where your research is taking you?
Yeah, it's funny. With the introduction of that, I thought we were going to go to politics straight away. But actually, the two are fundamentally related, right? But it's a great segue into, and in some sense, I don't want to say more deeper, but maybe more pragmatic. But in thinking about the dress, okay, so 2014 when that came out, those of us, so I study color vision. I study many things, but one of the main things we study is vision, how the brain makes meaning of itself, but specifically color. And there's a reason why we study color, because color is both literal and also a metaphor for how we see life in general. And so what's true at the level of color has to be true all the way up, because it's one of our simplest perceptions, right? Seeing the intensity of light, it doesn't get any easier than that, right? And as I like to say, even jellyfish see intensity and they don't even have a brain, right? So if we can deeply understand color, which seems so abstract, then maybe we can understand what it is to be human. What the dress did is it showed the most fundamental attributes of what it is to be human, which is that we didn't evolve to see the world the way it is. The world exists. As you say, there's a real world out there, but we don't see it. And the question is, well, why don't we see it? And the reason why we don't see it is because the information received from the world is completely ambiguous. So the information that the eyes were receiving from the dress, not the brain, but the eyes were receiving from the dress is ambiguous. It could be many things, right? Light photons don't come with instructions. They don't tell you what to do. And we often forget that because we say, well, what do you mean it's meaningless? Because I look around, I see buildings, I see all kinds of things. But that's because you're looking at after you've processed that information, not at the information itself. So the information from that dress was completely ambiguous. It could have been a blue dress under yellow light or a yellow dress under blue light. Your brain has no access to the real world other than through the photons. In the same way that if the people listening hold up their finger, their index finger, and they hold it up and they move it towards or away from them to something that's far in the distance and large, they will be able to get their finger and that large thing to project exactly the same size onto the retina, right? And yet the two things have different sizes, right? So the information at that point coming from your retina is saying these two things are the same. And yet you know them to be different. How on earth do you know them to be different? There's nothing in the information that tells you they're different. Similarly, there's nothing in the information with the blue and yellow dress that tells you they're different. So what you're seeing is your interpretation of the information, not the information. And in this case, there were at least two interpretations. It was a blue dress under yellow light or a yellow dress under blue light. Both situations would generate the exact same information, right? And so what was happening is people were interpreting it one way unconsciously, or they were interpreting it the other way. And some could actually flip it. It's called a bistable perception. Sometimes you can see it one way, sometimes you can see it another. So we had lots of interviews because I study color, like I said. But then what I found really interesting is not simply that people are seeing it different, because everyone's familiar with illusions. What became really interesting is as you say, the conflict that created. It's like, what do you mean? No, it has to be blue. There's no way that it's yellow. You're crazy. There's no way that's a yellow dress. So people were taking really strong views over what they were seeing. And more than that, Others then started saying, wait a minute. Once they started accepting that people could have different views, then they started thinking, well, wait a minute, what does this mean for the rest of what I see? Because, okay, I can understand you speak French, I speak German, you speak English, right? That's fine, that's cognitive, but surely our colors are the same. Surely we can't be different at that level. When in fact, we have no idea what's inside another person's head, right? It's called the inverted spectrum. I have no idea if my qualia of blue is your qualia of blue. Your qualia of blue could be my qualia of red, but we just call it blue. But because we behave towards it in the same way, we assume that we're seeing the same thing. But it could be radically different, and I could never know.